Hello, everyone. We're in the final episode of this week's series of podcasts. So we're doing 2 Samuel 7. I'm here with Phil on the Bible.
2 Samuel 10.
10? Yeah, sorry, we started on 7. Phil, I was telling you before, I actually done all right. I don't think I've made too many blunders, but this is like night 5 of 5 nights and 5 days and 5 nights straight. And my brain is fried. So the fact that I've gotten through to the last
well.
I've done well. And I think I've at least I've made sense to myself. I'll probably, if I listen to it back, I'd probably realise I've said all kinds of things because my brain is not working. 2 Samuel 10.
Yes.
So, what did I say? 7, 10.
You initially said 7, but that's
2 Samuel 10.
chapter 10.
On the Bible, wait, what?
Yes.
I had to get that in.
Of course you do.
I had to get it in. Next week's episode, when I recorded this ages ago with Annalise, she laughed every time. And I said, no, I get to do it 5 times a week now with this new format. So this is a little bit different. This is David defeating the Ammonites. And yet 2 chapters before, 2 days ago on our podcast, we were talking about David securing his kingdom, and it was supposed to be written as a better narrative. This is unfortunate. This whole defeat here was someone who had been an ally becomes an enemy.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's a different, it's written with it's sad, and it's written with a different narrative to it.
It is. Well, it's like when we had mentioned that setting up ambassadors and all that with other kingdoms. So you're on that relationship and the diplomacy. And so King David, he's one of his other kings, so the Ammonites, died, and so the son took over. And so David says, well, okay, I'll pay some tributes and
I'll honour him like he honoured like his dad honoured me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to show complete loyalty to this bloke because of his father, who was always completely loyal to me. That's what he says in verse 2. So he sent off ambassadors to express sympathy to the new king for his father's death. So it would have been like us sending our Prime Minister and all that for when Queen Elizabeth died.
Similar sort of thing, yes. Yeah, a diplomatic mission of goodwill.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
But unfortunately it was misinterpreted. It wasn't received in that manner. So the ambassadors came, and these advisors must have been some young advisors.
Probably young, immature advisors, which we actually see with David's grandson, Rehoboam.
Yeah. Same
Same thing happens. Yeah. Young, there's wisdom in eldership, there's wisdom in experience, and they're probably his mates that he'd grown up with, like what happened with Rehoboam in a few chapters' time, or the next in 1 Kings. And just said, oh, no, that's not how it is. No. He's actually coming to take over.
Yeah. They've been sent out to spy, come and take over. So unfortunately, these ambassadors were shamed in a different way than probably nowadays.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's funny.
It just sounds funny. Sounds like a skit from a Monty Python show, doesn't it, really? You'd expect it.
I'll shave off half your beard.
Yep.
And
cut off their robes at the buttocks.
And show off your buttocks.
Cute round buttocks.
Yes.
Isn't that what Shrek says, isn't it?
Definitely a Monty Python skit.
Monty Python skit right there,
yes.
But deeply shameful.
Yeah, in their culture.
In their culture, beards were a sign of strength and masculinity, and robes would have been a sign of authority and just to have that cut off. So these ambassadors were deeply shamed. It did not go the way they expected.
Yeah. And I must admit, when you said cut off the robes, it was like, it just reminded me of, the hem of Jesus' garment.
Yep, exactly.
That was where his power and authority was in the
that's right. And it was in the hem. And that was hems of robes were like epaulets on military uniforms today. Yeah. It was the symbol of their authority. So to cut that off was to take away their authority. It would be like taking off those epaulets, basically demoting them, ridiculing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or to take a crown off a monarch. It's that kind of thing. Yeah. Which obviously is deeply shameful.
Yeah. So it was, their intentions were misinterpreted, and David was he was very upset with it, of course, and it says that David was angry, how they angered David in their actions. But so instead of these guys coming into David and saying, I'm sorry, I got the wrong end of the stick and I did the wrong thing, they hid behind another army.
Yeah, they got another army to back them
up.
Yeah.
So they went to war.
Yep. It escalated in a hurry.
Yeah.
What would have been a potentially good thing for the Ammonites, an increasing diplomatic mission that would have given them continued safety and the blessing of Israel, the superior kingdom, quickly turned against them because they misinterpreted, misunderstood, miscommunicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a sad story.
It is.
So the people of Ammon realised how seriously that angered David. Then they went and hired 20,000 Aramean foot soldiers. Well, that would have been a tax to the people. So straight away having to do that, hire a mercenary army would have cost them a lot of money. So they've lost out before they've even started this battle.
And it wasn't just 20,000 of those ones. There was also another 1,000 and another 12,000.
12,000, yeah. So we've got 32,000 soldiers being hired in. That money's got to come from somewhere. Just like in any military campaign, it usually comes from increased taxes. It comes from a decrease in services being provided to the people. That's just so one misunderstanding, one poor bit of advice from these advisors has ruined their kingdom. Wow. That's sad.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the monetary side of it. Something so small can blow out so far out of proportion.
And I think that's the lesson for us in this chapter, actually, is the power of communication and clarity. And, David wasn't perfect either, but I mean, in this situation, but he meant well at the start.
Yeah.
And he probably had to defend himself because an enemy showed up on his doorstep. But just how quickly things can get out of hand if we don't communicate clearly. If we don't fill the gap with trust, as Pastor Steve White always says, if we don't fill the gap with trust and genuinely believe good intentions rather than jump to conclusions, things get worse in a hurry. This is like a case study for all of us.
Yeah. And I'm sure we've all experienced that where we've, said something and it got misinterpreted and then, it came back and it's like, that's not what I intended.
Yeah.
So I need to be really mindful of that. And one thing is like, okay, these troops tried. There was 2 different battles and they both lost.
The Ammonites lost.
Yeah, Ammonites lost the battle. But it was when the Arameans realised that they had been defeated, they were afraid to help the Ammonites.
Yeah,
it's basically like, okay, well, you rallied me to try and support you and back you up, and I realised that I'm on the wrong side.
We're on the losing side here.
So we're going to stop.
Yep, that's right.
Which makes you really feel more egg on your face in that sense.
Yeah, so as we wrap up, it's a really thought-provoking practical application here is how do we avoid that happening ourselves? How do we make sure that we have good discernment in leadership decisions, that when people come to us with quote-unquote diplomatic missions, come with ideas, come with concerns, come with goodwill, let's just be slow to assume the worst and quick to assume the best. Not saying blindly, automatically assume everybody's motives are perfect, but there's a way to do it circumspectly that it's not foolish. You're not just accepting something at face value, but you want to move in the direction of leaning in rather than leaning out.
Yeah.
And fill that gap with trust and hope that in itself will be enough to strengthen relationships. Because we're all going to have these situations in our world. We're all going to have people who come into our world who, there's potential for tension, there's potential for upset, there's potential for disagreement or lack of alignment. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. I've often said, people say, I can't believe these Christians are always arguing with each other. And I always say, I can't believe we get on as well as we do because we're so different. However, that's not an excuse for not maintaining the fruit of the Spirit, maintaining the peace. I think Paul says, do everything you can to maintain the peace. What does he say? How does he put it? Do everything you can to uphold the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace, he says. So it's maintaining the unity of spirit. Unity is something given to us. It's not something we have to strive for. It's actually a gift from God, and our job is not to create unity, but to maintain it.
Yeah.
And assuming the worst about people is one of the, or assuming that they're an enemy is one of the worst things we can do. And usually it'll backfire on us. We'll find ourselves at the wrong end. We'll find ourselves like the Ammonites did here. Let's not enter into hostility. Let's go the other way, hey?
Yes. Yeah. Find the common ground.
Find the common ground. That's right. Let's look to avoid conflicts rather than create them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe the best. Fill the gap with trust. All right. Anything else in there?
No, that was, it's pretty good in a nutshell.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's episodes.
Thank
We're going to
you.
back up and record another whole week of episodes, which is later in the year, but we're going to do it while we're here. So,
Yes.
So we'll talk to you again, Phil, in a few months' time.
Sounds good.
And in our case, in about 3 minutes.
Sounds good.